Ever wanted to know how you relate to others based on astrology? Well, today we are going to talk all about synastry by looking to Venus-Neptune aspects. In this video, we will cover the conjunction and the opposition, and if you would like to see the sextile, trine, and square, that is available for our channel members below. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Hannah and welcome back, Cosmic Warriors. Before we do dive into today's video, if you want to learn more about astrology, then head on over to the Cosmic Check-In podcast. And if you would like to book a synastry reading with myself, then go to hannahselsewhere.com. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's do this. Alright, so first and foremost, there is the introduction video to synastry below, as well as many videos about aspects. I recommend watching those first. Though for the purpose of this series, I will focus on the 5 major aspects. Make sure to also consider degrees, very important, to get a clear picture. And hey, you can always book a synastry reading with myself and I can help guide you based on your unique chart. Though, what does Venus represent in relationships? Well, Venus points to love, attraction, what we value in our relationships, the beauty we experience, the harmony we seek, how we wish to reach win-win outcomes. However, Venus can also indicate themes of jealousy, rivalry, pettiness, passive aggression, conflict avoidance, and superficiality, where we are more concerned about image than depth. But then let's also think about what Neptune represents within our relationships. Neptune points to the ways in which we merge within our relationships. Think about our shared visions and dreams and our combined identity with another. There is a sense of oneness or wholeness, if you will, as two become one. And then we also see the sacrifices within our relationships. We can be idealistic. This enchanting idealism means we can see the best in the other. Neptune allows then for a profound and non-verbal way of understanding the other person's needs and feelings. We see themes of empathy and forgiveness. However, and this is a big however because working with Neptune can be really tricky, Neptune also indicates unhealthy merging, such as losing our identity and our autonomy, right? It's saying that we are whole and complete within ourselves too. We don't want to be tricked by that. Plus, taking responsibility for the other person's emotions can happen, low tolerance for differentness, one-sided relationships that mean one person makes all the sacrifices. And then there are these times of disappointment when the other does not live up to our idealized vision. Feeling lost in the relationship is likely. Deception can also occur and miscommunication can play out. Thinking we are getting somewhere when the reality of the situation suggests otherwise. Not to mention, addiction can challenge the relationship. And then also the relationship itself can be quite addictive. All right, then we also want to consider the condition of Venus and Neptune in your chart and then the other person's chart as well, whoever is involved. Look to both or all people's charts and do consider progressions, because progressions are going to look at how your relationships may evolve over time. The following information, though, can be applied to love, friendship, and family relationships. I will use some examples throughout. Though, Venus-Neptune aspects in synastry, what are they actually about? They are basically about the connection between what we value and desire within relationships, being Venus, and then the ways in which we merge and come together with another being Neptune. What we find appealing, beautiful, and attractive, Venus, along with fantasy, idealism, and inspiration, Neptune. How we seek win-win outcomes, Venus, whilst we also consider subconscious collective themes, hidden truths, and symbolism, Neptune. The harmony we seek, Venus, and then times when we dissolve our own boundaries for the sake of the relationship itself, Neptune. Jealousy and rivalry, very much Venus, mixed with deception and these kind of nebulous behaviors, Neptune. At best, we see themes of compassion, sacrifice, non-judgment. We see devotion, empathy, kindness, fantasy, and a spiritual connection too. But at worst, we can see themes here of delusionment, putting the other person on a pedestal, wearing rose-colored glasses, right? The famous rose-colored glasses associated with Neptune, lies, miscommunication, unhealthy escapism, a lot of avoidance, conflict avoidance, and well then sweeping major issues under the rug, right? Pretending like they don't exist. So with that in mind, let's think about Venus conjunct Neptune in synastry. This is the fusion of one person's values, beauty, desires, and comforts, very much Venus, with another person acting as this enchanting and romantic magnet in their life, as if the Venus person is pulled in by the Neptune person. Due to the generational nature of Neptune, by the way, there is something here about the Neptune person tapping into the romantic ideals of the Venus person. At the same time, the Venus person may appear as the guy or gal of the Neptune person's dreams. And this is not necessarily conscious. The Neptune person might actually project their dreams and their fantasies onto the Venus person, subconsciously expecting the Venus person to meet the fantasy. But then the moment the Venus person does not, they can run into issues. And I have to say this before we go on. I have Venus in Capricorn. It's also conjunct Neptune, so they do come as a package. But it's interesting to think that I've got Venus in Capricorn, and then I'm also a part of the Neptune and Capricorn generation. So I think about all the people within that generation who have Neptune in Capricorn around the same degree as my Venus in Capricorn. Okay, it's not easy out here. It's not easy. Anyway, to the Venus person, the Neptune person might very well appear enchanting, compassionate, loving, dreamy, and perhaps somewhat enlightened, as if they embody a type of transcendence and escapism that can help the Venus person escape from reality, or like the Neptune person can save or rescue the Venus person. And as for the Neptune person, they might mirror the values and priorities back at the Venus person. And then, well, this is where deception can come in, martyrdom, the savior complex, which is why they must be very cautious. If they can work through these tricky areas, they can co-create a relationship that is hopefully genuine, one of pleasure, beauty, grace, compassion, and love. And like I'm trying to get at here, a challenge is when the Neptune person forces the Venus person to dissolve their core values, which then can lead to resentment and disappointment. The Neptune person might dominate by projecting unrealistic and unreasonable expectations onto the Venus person. And the moment the Venus person does not live up to the Neptune person's ideal, they are seen as the bad guy. At the same time, the Venus person might dominate by pushing for a relationship built on their terms, as if the Neptune person must sacrifice their identity for the sake of the relationship. So if both parties can manage to come together by exploring their agreed upon, and that's very important, agreed upon visions as a team, they can co-create hopefully a longer future together, but also apply this naturally to family relationships and friendships. So let's go with a couple of examples. Let's think about the current Neptune generation, right? So Neptune is currently in Pisces, has been there since I think 2011, something like that, the 2010s anyway, and will leave. So Neptune will leave Pisces in 2026. Right, so let's strip this back and think about the Neptune and Pisces generation and their sort of idealisms and their own projections, their fantasies, how they can perhaps get lost in a sea of emotion, or they perhaps can at times get caught up in their own subconscious drives and motivations. Things could be hidden or a bit tricky to fully grasp and recognize. So whenever we blend this in with a Venus in Pisces person, right, we're going with Venus in Pisces with the Neptune in Pisces. The Venus in Pisces individual just might be this idealistic person, the dreamlike person to the Neptune in Pisces. And we could then see this tenderness, of course, a tenderness within the relationship, this softness, a calming sort of presence, like things flow better or are a lot easier and smoother. We could see these kinds of themes happening. But also what comes to mind here is what about times whenever they disagree? What about times whenever they are both bringing in their idealistic views or they're projecting their own fantasies, and then they don't realize that it's happening, and then who is coming along to stop that from happening or to recognize that? So this is where the merging can naturally occur, and that merging could be somewhat unhealthy if they do get lost in one another, and then both of them lose their sort of independence and their autonomy. Don't get me wrong, whenever it comes to relationships, there is a type of sacrifice that we make. There is a type of surrender, if you will, when it comes to our personal independence, right? We're having to negotiate. We're having to reach healthy win-win outcomes within our relationships. But with Pisces here, this could go to the extreme, okay? We want to be mindful of how that can go overboard and how with this type of pairing, there could be that domination happening. They can sort of be so caught up within themselves and not see things clearly. Right, so therefore, hopefully, this is the type of relationship where they can bring some type of awareness to what they're both co-creating together so that there is a healthier sort of structure in place. Last thing though I'm going to just touch on with this, I guess because Saturn has been traveling through Pisces over the past few years, maybe we have seen certain reality checks happen, which perhaps for a couple like this has led to some inconsistencies or harsh truths. And I'm saying this, by the way, more so from the perspective of transit. So I'm thinking about how Neptune has been traveling through Pisces over the past 14 years. And then also with Saturn following along over the past few years. So I wanted to add that to the end. Okay, then let's go with Venus and Libra, with Neptune and Libra. All right, so this type of pairing, I'm thinking about the Neptune and Libra generation and their own ideals about marriage and union and sacrifice. And then I'm also thinking about that type of generation coming together with the Venus and Libra. And so a perhaps beneficial way to look at this is if they're on the same page, very Libra, if they're on the same page, this is the type of relationship I think that can go the distance, that can work. But if it's a case of there's this avoidance or the passive aggressiveness is happening or the resentment is building over differing opinions, differing views, and neither party is really speaking up or saying anything, this is where the relationship is going to need some further analysis and honesty and clarity, right? More of this spoken word and the ability to work through things fairly, responsibly, rationally. Though one quick thing to add to this, sure, there is that romantic stuff, the romanticizing the relationship itself, and I think some healthy romanticism can be nice, and it can make the relationship into something that is really pleasing and joyful. Like they can really experience a good life together. But if it turns into this thing where it's the perfect marriage, it's the perfect life, and everything needs to be perfect, and then something happens to challenge that perfectionism, kind of bursting that perfectionism bubble, can they get through that together is the question. I hope you are enjoying this video so far, and if you are, then please be sure to subscribe and to give the video a like. And if you would like to learn more about astrology, then you can always pick up a copy of my astrology cheat sheets. The links are down below. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to Venus opposite Neptune in Synastry. This is an attraction based on a few things: romance, soulful connection, beauty, compassion, and desire. But this is also a combination that requires effort to overcome any tensions and struggles. As the Venus person is pulled in by the Neptune person's idealism, imagination, dreams, and fantasies, the Neptune person activates something within the Venus person's love, desires, and values. There is a dreamy, longing, and expansive fantasy that creates curiosity from the Venus person towards the Neptune person. Indeed, we see how mystical the Neptune person is to the Venus person, but if the Venus person pulls away from the Neptune person's fantasy and ideals, the Neptune person might feel let down. And if the Neptune person pulls away from the love, affections, and gestures of the Venus person might see the Neptune person as non-committal, avoidant, secretive, deceptive, as if there is something about them that cannot be trusted. This is why transparency and honesty from the Neptune person towards the Venus person is so necessary here. This is where we see friction within the relationship, where there's this push and pull between connection and escapism, right? Connection and avoidance. Both parties may feel overlooked by the other. The Venus person feels overlooked by the Neptune person's falsehood and unavailability, and then the Neptune person feels overlooked by the Venus person's terms and values. Therefore, it is important for the Venus person to value the sensitivity and the longings of the Neptune person, and then for the Neptune person to appreciate the desires, pleasures, and relationship expectations of the Venus person. This can lead to a more long-lasting relationship where they put in the work. They can also help each other with their blind spots. For example, the Neptune person can learn from the Venus person how to see things from a practical point of view rather than them losing themselves in others. And then the Venus person can learn from the Neptune person how to let go, trust the process, and make certain sacrifices. Can they find a common ground during times when it feels like things are so confusing within the relationship? Reality check-ins within the relationship can help, as well as the ownership of any projections. It's about defining what the relationship means to them. And the last thing I'm going to say here is, sure, there could be some non-negotiables, some deal breakers that come up. I have noticed this with oppositions particularly. There could be some things that cannot be compromised. There can be some things that come up that they cannot agree on. They cannot agree. So this is what we're also going to have to work with if these types of things arise. All right, so a couple of examples here. Let's go with Venus in Gemini with Neptune in Sagittarius. So the Venus in Gemini could be pulled in by the larger than life influence coming from the Neptune in Sagittarius individual. Almost like the Neptune in Sagittarius has all of these dreams and fantasies about travel, expansion, going the distance, exploration, really expanding their horizons really. And so the Venus in Gemini could be maybe smitten by this or pulled in a really positive, enthusiastic way where they're going to get to learn and do things together, enjoy, right? And then at the same time, the Neptune person could be pulled in by the curiosity of the Venus in Gemini, by their cheeky smile, by their playfulness, their wit, things like that. However, the challenge here could be both parties becoming overly idealistic, a lot of talking, but maybe not enough doing, or possibly this could be where the Neptune in Sagittarius can be disappointed by the Venus in Gemini because of it being all talk at times. Or they could maybe be thrown off by the Venus in Gemini's way of changing their mind. They could see it as, oh, you're flip-flopping too much. You're not living up to this ideal life that I'm thinking of, that I'm dreaming about. So then their aspirations could clash. Their priorities could clash. And then also to the Venus in Gemini, they could possibly pull away from the Neptune in Sagittarius if the Neptune in Sagittarius is coming across as deceptive or maybe not clear about their own plans, about their own sort of ways that they wish to expand. And if the Venus in Gemini thinks that doesn't make logical sense, that doesn't add up to me, then yeah, we could see this overlooked stuff that I'm trying to highlight. So it's a case of how able are they to reach a win-win outcome? Is it a case of there being too many sacrifices, too many compromises, and then resentment can grow? Can they realistically, I suppose with the Neptune involved, there needs to be healthy, realistic elements to this, but can they realistically join together and see where the other is coming from? And I think a big part of this is tied to truth, honesty, and effective communication. Then let's go with a Venus in Taurus with a Neptune in Scorpio. So this is where we see this sensuality mixed with sexuality. I'm thinking here how the Venus in Taurus might be pulled in by the Neptune in Scorpio's allure, their mystery, right? Their mysterious side, by their sexual connection, and by their longing for a deeper, soulful, intimate bond. Yeah, the Venus in Taurus could be smitten by this. They could be attracted to this, pulled in by this. And to the Neptune in Scorpio, they might think that the Venus in Taurus is very sensual, grounded, rooted in reality. There's something about them that is calming to the Neptune in Scorpio. So this could be a relationship where that sensual, sexual connection is alive. And it especially comes out through desire and fantasy. However, if it gets to a point where the Venus in Taurus is very much stuck in their ways, or the Neptune in Scorpio is getting too lost in the fantasy, where they're maybe asking for more than what the Venus in Taurus can give at times, then this could be where issues can arise. Especially if the Venus in Taurus individual feels like the Neptune in Scorpio individual is hiding something, or they're not being fully upfront about their potential issues or power struggles within themselves. To the Venus in Taurus, this could look like a major threat to their security, to their safety. So what I'm thinking about this pairing is, can they establish a healthy kind of security within the relationship? Something that they can trust, something that is more stable and steady. This is where we see that essential sexual connection isn't enough to sustain a relationship for the long term, and that what is also to be addressed is the very real, practical, the very consistent style of co-creating together, especially I think for the Venus and Taurus. That could be something that they're really going to value, basically. And then also for the Neptune and Scorpio, their ideals could be linked to that intimacy, and that does require trust naturally. And it's that trust and that stability that can go hand in hand. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors. So that concludes today's video all about the Venus-Neptune aspects in synastry. We explored the conjunction and the opposition today. And I do hope that you enjoyed learning about those aspects. If you did, you can also find the sextile, the trine, and the square available exclusively for our channel members. You'll gain access to all member-only videos over there. To join, just click the join button below. Though, in the meantime, I hope this video has taught you more about synastry. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Give the video a like, of course, if you did like it today. Subscribe for more if you haven't already. And I will catch you in the next one. Stay tuned for more. Bye.